The radio crackled to life in Officer Marcus Rodriguez's patrol car, just as the first snowflakes began falling on the quiet streets of Millbrook. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in February, and the weather forecast had been calling for a light dusting. What nobody expected was how quickly that light dusting would turn into a dangerous ice storm. Unit 23. We have a medical emergency on Cedar Ridge Road. Mile marker 7. Pregnant female, complications reported. EMT response delayed due to weather conditions, dispatch announced through the static. Marcus grabbed his radio immediately. Unit 23 responding. Added 12 minutes. He glanced at his partner in the passenger seat. Not another officer, but Rex, a 5-year-old German shepherd with intelligent brown eyes and a track record that had made him legendary in their small town. Rex seemed to sense the urgency, sitting straighter as Marcus hit the sirens and accelerated through the increasingly treacherous streets. Cedar Ridge Road was notorious even in good weather. The winding mountain path was barely wide enough for 2 cars, with steep drops on one side and rocky cliffs on the other. In winter, it became a death trap. Most residents who lived up there had 4-wheel drive vehicles and enough sense to stay home when storms hit. But emergencies didn't wait for perfect weather. As they climbed higher, the snow was falling harder, and Marcus could feel his tires struggling for grip despite the chains he'd put on earlier. The temperature had dropped dramatically in the last hour, turning the fresh snow into a slick coating of ice over the asphalt. His headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating a world that was rapidly becoming a frozen wasteland. "Come on, Rex," Marcus muttered, taking another sharp curve carefully. "Someone needs us tonight." The address dispatch had given him belonged to the Hendersons, a young couple who had moved to the mountain house just 6 months ago. Sarah Henderson was 8 months pregnant with twins, and her husband Jake worked night shifts at the lumber mill down in the valley. Marcus remembered meeting them at a community barbecue last summer. Sarah had been glowing with excitement about the babies, and Jake couldn't stop talking about how peaceful it was living up on the mountain. As they rounded the final bend before the Henderson property, Marcus's headlights caught something that made his heart sink. About 50 yards ahead, a massive pine tree had fallen across the road, its trunk easily 3 feet in diameter. Ice had weighted down its branches until they snapped, bringing the entire tree crashing down and completely blocking the narrow mountain road. Marcus pulled to a stop and grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 23. We have a major obstruction on Cedar Ridge Road. Large tree down, road completely impassable to vehicles. I'm proceeding on foot." "Copy that, Unit 23. Tree removal crew is being dispatched, but ETA is unknown due to weather conditions. EMT units are still 20 minutes out minimum." 20 minutes. Marcus looked at Rex, who was already at attention, ready to work. 20 minutes could be a lifetime for a woman in labor with complications, especially one carrying twins. He grabbed his emergency medical kit, a powerful flashlight, and his radio. Rex jumped out of the car behind him, his paws immediately slipping slightly on the icy ground before finding purchase. The wind was picking up now, driving the ice pellets horizontally across the road. Marcus pulled his jacket tighter and checked his flashlight. The Henderson house was still half a mile up the road, around 2 more bends. In normal conditions, it would be a 10-minute walk. Tonight, it would be treacherous. "Let's go, partner," he said to Rex, and they began making their way around the fallen tree. Neither of them knew that this rescue would become the most important call of their careers, or that what they discovered at the Henderson house would change their small town forever. The walk to the Henderson house became a nightmare of slipping, sliding, and fighting against the wind. Marcus had to stop 3 times when his feet went out from under him on the ice-covered asphalt. Each time, Rex would position himself strategically to help his partner regain balance. The dog's natural agility and forepaw drive gave him a significant advantage on the treacherous surface. As they rounded the first bend, Marcus could hear something that made his blood run cold. The sound of a woman screaming in pain, carried on the wind from somewhere up ahead. He picked up his pace despite the dangerous conditions, and Rex matched him step for step. "Sarah," Marcus called out as the Henderson house came into view. It was a modest log cabin with warm yellow light spilling from the windows. The screaming was definitely coming from inside. "Police, I'm here to help." The front door flew open and Jake Henderson appeared, his face pale with panic. "Officer Rodriguez, thank God you're here. Sarah's in labor and something's wrong. The contraction started 2 hours ago, but now she's bleeding and the babies." "I don't know what to do." Marcus rushed inside, Rex close behind. The house was warm, a stark contrast to the frozen hell outside. Sarah Henderson was on the living room couch covered with blankets, her face contorted in pain. She was a small woman, and carrying twins had made her pregnancy particularly difficult. Now at 8 months, the babies were coming whether they were ready or not. "Sarah, I'm Officer Rodriguez. I have medical training. Can you tell me what's happening?" Marcus knelt beside the couch, pulling on latex gloves from his medical kit. "The pain. It's different than before?" Sarah gasped between contractions, sharp like tearing. "And there's so much blood." She grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "Please don't let my babies die." Marcus quickly assessed the situation. Sarah was indeed bleeding more than normal for labor, and her blood pressure seemed dangerously low based on her pale complexion and rapid pulse. The twins were coming fast, too fast for comfort, especially given their premature status at 32 weeks. "Jake, I need you to get me clean towels, hot water, and anything sterile you can find. Sheets, blankets, anything." Marcus was already reaching for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 23. I need an immediate helicopter medical evacuation at the Henderson residence. We have a woman in premature labor with twins, possible placental abruption, significant bleeding." The radio crackled back with bad news. "Unit 23 negative on helicopter evac. Weather conditions are too severe for flight operations. Ground units are still working on tree removal. ETA 45 minutes minimum." 45 minutes. Marcus looked at Sarah, who was gripping the couch cushions as another powerful contraction hit. These babies weren't going to wait 45 minutes. He was going to have to deliver them himself, in a mountain cabin during an ice storm, with no medical backup. Rex had been sitting quietly near the door, but suddenly he stood up, ears perked, looking toward the back of the house. The dog's behavior was distinctive. Marcus had seen it before when Rex detected something others couldn't. The canine walked purposefully toward the kitchen, then stopped at the back door, whining softly. "What is it, boy?" Marcus asked, but then he heard it too, a sound that made his heart sink even further. The distinctive crack and groan of wood under too much weight. Somewhere outside, more trees were coming down. Jake appeared with an armload of towels and a pot of water. "Officer, the power just flickered. If we lose electricity..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. "Without power, they'd lose heat and light, turning an already dire situation into something potentially fatal. Jake, I need you to stay calm. Your wife and babies are going to be fine, but I need your help." Marcus was setting up makeshift medical supplies on the coffee table. "First baby is coming now, whether we're ready or not." Sarah let out another scream, this one different. The unmistakable sound of a woman in the final stages of labor. Marcus positioned himself as another contraction began, and he could see the top of the first baby's head crowning. Outside, the storm was getting worse. Inside, Rex continued his alert stance at the back door, sensing something that would soon prove crucial to all their lives. The first twin was about to be born, but this rescue was just beginning. The first baby girl emerged into the world at 12:23 a.m., tiny and perfect but terrifyingly still. Marcus had delivered babies before during his 10 years as a police officer, but never twins, never premature ones, and never under these conditions. The infant was blue and not breathing, weighing barely 4 pounds. "Jake, hand me that clean towel immediately," Marcus ordered, working quickly to clear the baby's airway. He began gentle chest compressions while Jake and Sarah watched in terror. Rex had moved closer, his intelligent eyes fixed on the tiny form in Marcus's hands. After what felt like an eternity but was actually only 30 seconds, the baby girl took her first breath. A weak, mewing cry that was the most beautiful sound any of them had ever heard. Marcus quickly wrapped her in warm towels and handed her to Jake. "She's breathing, she's alive, but she needs to stay warm," Marcus instructed. "Hold her against your chest, skin to skin if possible. Her body temperature is critical right now." Sarah was crying with relief, but there was no time to celebrate. The second baby was coming, and this delivery was proving more difficult. The baby seemed to be in a breech position, which could be dangerous even under hospital conditions. "Sarah, I need you to listen to me carefully," Marcus said, his voice calm despite the chaos. "The second baby is coming feet first. I need you to push only when I tell you to, and pant like a dog when I tell you to stop." "Can you do that?" Sarah nodded weakly. She was losing more blood, and Marcus was growing increasingly concerned about her condition. He had radioed for updates twice, but the tree removal crew was still working on clearing the road. Hampered by 2 more trees that had fallen in the storm, Rex suddenly barked sharply, a warning bark that Marcus knew well. The dog was looking toward the back of the house again, and this time Marcus could hear what had alarmed him. A deep, ominous creaking sound was coming from somewhere outside, followed by what sounded like splitting wood. "Jake, take the baby and Sarah into the bathroom. It's the most interior room in the house," Marcus ordered. "Something's wrong outside." Before anyone could move, there was a tremendous crash that shook the entire house. Through the back window, Marcus could see that a massive oak tree had fallen across the rear of the property, taking down power lines and crushing what looked like a propane tank. Sparks flew through the darkness, and within seconds, the lights went out. The house was plunged into darkness except for Marcus's flashlight and the flickering glow of what appeared to be a small fire, starting where the tree had hit the propane line. They now had no electricity, no heat, a potential fire hazard, and a woman in the middle of delivering her second premature baby. "Rex, come here," Marcus called, and the dog immediately moved to his side. In emergencies like this, Rex had been trained to act as a living heating pad, using his body warmth to help preserve human life. "Jake, bring Sarah and the first baby into the bathroom, like I said. We're going to finish this delivery in there." Jake carefully lifted Sarah while she clutched the blankets around her. The first baby girl was still breathing but remained worryingly quiet. They moved as quickly as possible through the dark house, guided by Marcus's flashlight beam. The bathroom was small but warm, retaining heat better than the larger rooms. Marcus spread clean towels on the floor while Jake held both Sarah and the baby. Rex positioned himself near Sarah's feet, providing warmth and somehow seeming to understand the gravity of the situation. "The second baby is coming now," Sarah gasped. "I can't stop it." Marcus knelt on the bathroom floor, his flashlight balanced on the sink to provide illumination. The second baby's feet were visible, and he knew he had to work quickly to prevent complications. A breech delivery required careful handling to avoid injury to both mother and child. On the next contraction, "I need a gentle push. Sarah, not too hard?" Marcus supported the baby's legs as they emerged, then the torso. The most critical moment was delivering the head without damage. Outside, they could hear the wind howling and the distant sound of the small fire crackling. Inside the small bathroom, 3 adults, 1 dog, and soon 2 newborn babies were defying the odds together. Rex's presence seemed to calm everyone. The dog's steady breathing and warm body created a sense of security in the darkness. As Marcus worked to deliver the second twin, he couldn't help but think that without his canine partner's early warning about the falling tree, they might all have been in the main room when it hit the power lines. The second baby boy emerged at 12:51 a.m., even smaller than his sister and completely silent. Marcus's heart sank as he looked at the tiny, motionless form. The baby was gray-blue and showed no signs of life. He immediately began resuscitation efforts, but the infant remained unresponsive. "Is he?" Sarah whispered, unable to finish the question. "I'm not giving up," Marcus said firmly, continuing chest compressions on the infant who couldn't have weighed more than 3.5 pounds. He cleared the airway again and provided gentle rescue breathing, his large hands dwarfing the tiny chest. Rex seemed to sense the urgency. The dog moved closer, his warm breath creating a small pocket of heat around the baby. Marcus had heard of therapy dogs helping in medical situations, but he'd never seen Rex behave quite like this before. After 2 full minutes of resuscitation efforts, Marcus was beginning to lose hope. Premature babies were fragile under the best circumstances, and these were far from the best circumstances. But just as he was considering calling time of death, the baby boy let out a weak gasp, then another. "Come on, little guy," Marcus whispered, wrapping the baby in warm towels and rubbing his back gently. Slowly, the infant's color began to improve from gray to pink, and his breathing became more regular. Jake was crying now, holding his daughter while watching his son fight for life. Sarah was weak from blood loss but alert enough to see both her children breathing. In the cramped bathroom lit only by flashlight, it felt like a miracle, but their ordeal was far from over. The fire outside was growing, and Marcus could smell smoke beginning to seep into the house. The propane leak was feeding the flames, and while the falling tree had initially broken the line, there could still be pressurized gas in the system. "We need to get out of here," Marcus announced, checking his radio. Still no word from the rescue crews about clearing the road. The tree removal was complicated by the ice, the darkness, and now the fire hazard. But the babies can't be moved in this weather, Jake protested. They're too small, too weak. Marcus knew Jake was right. Moving premature infants into sub-freezing temperatures could kill them faster than the fire. But staying in a house with a growing propane fire wasn't an option either. Rex suddenly stood up and walked to the bathroom door, then looked back at Marcus with an expression that seemed almost human in its intelligence. The dog barked once sharply, then moved toward the front of the house. "What is it, Rex?" Marcus followed his partner, leaving Jake with Sarah and the twins. Rex led him to the front window where Marcus could see something that changed everything. Headlights cutting through the storm. Still distant but definitely approaching. "Dispatch, this is Unit 23, Marcus radioed excitedly. "I have visual on approaching vehicles. Can you confirm rescue units on Cedar Ridge Road?" "Unit 23, that's negative. Tree removal crew is still working at mile marker 6. No units past that point." Marcus peered through the storm again. The headlights were definitely there, and they were moving slowly but steadily up the mountain road. Someone had managed to get past the fallen tree, possibly with a smaller vehicle or on foot with equipment. Rex barked again, this time in excitement rather than warning. The dog's exceptional hearing had picked up the sound of the approaching vehicles before Marcus could see them clearly. Within 10 minutes, the headlights resolved into 2 pickup trucks with snowplows attached to their fronts, followed by what looked like an ATV pulling a small trailer. The cavalry had arrived, but not in the form anyone expected. The first truck pulled up to the Henderson house, and out stepped Tom Williams, the owner of the local hardware store and volunteer firefighter. Behind him came Dr. Patricia Chen, the town's only pediatrician, and 3 other volunteers carrying medical equipment and supplies. "Marcus," Tom called out as he approached the house. "Rex's GPS collar showed you were here. When dispatch couldn't reach you and we heard about the babies, Doc Chen insisted we find a way through." Marcus felt a surge of gratitude and relief. Rex's GPS collar was standard equipment for K9 units, but he'd forgotten that the backup monitoring station could track their location even when radio communication failed. Dr. Chen was already moving toward the house with her medical bag. "How are the babies?" "Premature twins, correct? 32 weeks, born about 30 minutes apart. Both breathing but need immediate warming and assessment. The mother has significant blood loss," Marcus reported quickly. As the volunteers entered the house, Rex wagged his tail for the first time all night. His partner had done everything right, but now real medical help had arrived. The dog's GPS collar had literally saved the day, allowing the rescue team to find them when conventional communication had failed. Dr. Chen took one look at the newborn twins and immediately began setting up a mobile warming station, using equipment the volunteers had brought in the ATV trailer. The setup was impressive. Battery-powered heating elements, portable oxygen, and even a small incubator system designed for emergency field use. "These babies need to get to a hospital immediately," Dr. Chen announced after her initial examination. "But first we need to stabilize them for transport. The boy especially. His breathing is shallow and his color isn't great." While Dr. Chen worked on the twins, Tom Williams and the other volunteers addressed the fire situation outside. The propane had mostly burned off, but the fallen tree was still smoldering, creating dangerous conditions. They managed to cut the gas line completely and douse the remaining flames with snow. Sarah was also receiving attention from Maria Santos, a registered nurse who had joined the rescue party. "She's lost more blood than I'd like to see," Maria reported to Dr. Chen. "We need to get her to the hospital too, but she's stable enough for transport if we're careful." The challenge now was getting everyone down the mountain safely. The road was still blocked by the original fallen tree, plus the 2 additional trees that had come down during the storm. The rescue trucks had managed to push through by creating a narrow path, but it was barely wide enough for vehicles and treacherous even with chains and 4-wheel drive. "We're going to have to make 2 trips, Tom Williams decided. "First trip takes Mom and the babies with Doc Chen and medical equipment. Second trip takes everyone else." Rex had been staying close to the babies throughout the rescue operation, as if he understood they were the most vulnerable members of the group. Dr. Chen noticed the dog's behavior and asked Marcus about it. "Rex has always been protective, but I've never seen him act quite like this," Marcus explained. "It's like he knows these babies need extra help." Dr. Chen smiled. Dogs can sense distress and vulnerability better than humans sometimes. His presence might actually be helping keep the babies calm. As they prepared for the dangerous trip down the mountain, Rex suddenly became alert again, but this time his behavior was different. Instead of warning about danger, he seemed excited, almost hopeful. His tail was wagging, and he kept looking toward the road. "What's he hearing now?" Jake asked, still holding his daughter while Dr. Chen worked on his son. Marcus listened carefully. Over the wind and storm, he could hear a distant sound that made his heart leap, the unmistakable whop-whop-whop of helicopter rotors. "Dispatch, this is Unit 23, Marcus radioed. "Do we have air support incoming?" Unit 23, affirmative. "Weather conditions improved enough for a medical helicopter about 5 minutes ago. ETA to your location 3 minutes." Everyone in the house started talking at once. A helicopter evacuation would be infinitely safer than trying to transport premature babies down an icy mountain road in trucks. But landing on Cedar Ridge Road in these conditions would be extremely difficult. Tom Williams was already thinking ahead. "There's a flat area about a quarter-mile down the road where the old logging operation used to be. If we can get some lights set up there." "I've got road flares in my truck," one of the volunteers called out. "Rex and I can guide the helicopter in," Marcus offered. "We know that area well from training exercises." Dr. Chen was securing the babies in their portable transport systems. "If we're doing this, we need to move now. These babies can't handle much more stress." Within minutes, they had organized an efficient evacuation plan. Tom and 2 volunteers went ahead to set up a landing zone with flares and vehicle headlights. Dr. Chen, Maria, and Jake prepared to move Sarah and the twins. Marcus and Rex would coordinate with the helicopter crew and ensure everyone got loaded safely. As they prepared to leave the Henderson house, Marcus took a moment to look around. The small bathroom where he had delivered 2 babies by flashlight seemed almost surreal now. The living room where it all started was cold and dark, with melted snow blown in through cracks around the windows. Rex seemed to understand they were leaving. The dog took one last look around the house, then positioned himself next to the baby transport carriers, ready to escort his tiny charges to safety. The sound of the helicopter was getting louder now, and through the storm, they could see its searchlight cutting through the darkness. Help had finally arrived, but the most dangerous part of the rescue was just beginning. Getting premature babies from a mountain cabin to a helicopter in an ice storm would require perfect coordination and more than a little luck. As they prepared to head out into the storm one more time, Marcus couldn't help but think that without Rex's early warnings, his GPS collar, and his calming presence throughout the night, this rescue might have had a very different ending. The helicopter landing was a masterpiece of coordination under impossible conditions. The pilot, Captain Jennifer Walsh, had 20 years of military experience flying in combat zones. But she later said that landing on an icy mountain road in a snowstorm was one of the most challenging operations of her career. Marcus and Rex reached the makeshift landing zone first, using hand signals to guide the aircraft down while Tom Williams and his team kept the area lit with road flares and vehicle headlights. The downdraft from the helicopter rotors created a whirlwind of snow and ice, making visibility nearly zero. Rex stayed close to Marcus throughout the landing, his training as a K9 unit evident as he remained calm despite the noise and chaos. The dog seemed to understand that his job was to help his partner coordinate the rescue. Dr. Chen arrived at the landing zone carrying the baby boy in a portable incubator, while Maria Santos brought the baby girl. Both infants were wrapped in heated blankets and connected to portable monitors that showed their vital signs. Jake carried additional medical equipment, and 2 volunteers helped support Sarah, who was conscious but weak. The helicopter crew included Captain Walsh, a flight medic named David Park, and a flight nurse, Rebecca Morrison. They had specialized equipment for transporting premature infants, including a transport incubator that could maintain precise temperature and oxygen levels during flight. "How old are these babies?" Rebecca asked as they began transferring the twins to the helicopter's medical bay. "Born tonight, 32 weeks gestation, about 2 hours old," Dr. Chen reported. "Boy has had some respiratory distress. Girl is more stable, but both need immediate NICU care." The transfer process was complicated by the weather and the limited space around the helicopter. Everyone had to work together to load the medical equipment, the babies, Sarah, and the essential personnel. Dr. Chen and Maria would fly with the family to continue medical care during transport. As they prepared for takeoff, Jake turned to Marcus and Rex. "I don't know how to thank you. You saved all of them, Sarah and both babies. I thought we were going to lose everyone." Marcus shook his head. "Rex is the real hero here. He warned us about the falling trees. His GPS collar brought the rescue team and he helped keep everyone calm. I just followed his lead." Rex wagged his tail at the mention of his name, but his attention was focused on the helicopter where the babies were secured. The dog whined softly as if he didn't want to see his charges leave without him. Captain Walsh checked her instruments one final time. "We're looking at a 15-minute flight to Regional Medical Center. Weather's still rough, but we should be able to get through." As the helicopter lifted off, Marcus and Rex watched from the ground with the volunteers who would be staying behind to help clear the road and ensure the area was safe. The aircraft's lights disappeared into the storm, carrying a young family toward safety and specialized medical care. Tom Williams put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "That was some fine police work tonight, officer. You delivered 2 babies in a snowstorm and kept everyone alive until we could get here." "Couldn't have done it without my partner," Marcus replied, scratching Rex behind the ears. "This dog saved lives tonight." The volunteers spent the next hour making sure the fire was completely extinguished and helping Marcus secure the Henderson house. The power company had been notified about the downed lines, and a crew would come out once the storm passed to make repairs. As they finally prepared to head back down the mountain, Marcus's radio crackled with an update from the hospital. "Unit 23, this is Regional Medical Center. The Henderson family has arrived safely. Both infants are in stable condition in the NICU, and the mother is receiving treatment for blood loss but is expected to make a full recovery." The group of volunteers cheered, their voices echoing across the frozen mountainside. Rex barked once as if he understood the good news. The trip back down the mountain was slow but uneventful. The tree removal crew had finally cleared enough of the road to allow normal traffic, and the worst of the storm was moving past. By the time Marcus and Rex reached the bottom of Cedar Ridge Road, the snow had stopped falling, and stars were beginning to peek through the clouds. Marcus radioed dispatch to report that they were clear of the emergency scene and heading back to the station. As they drove through the quiet streets of Millbrook, both officer and dog were exhausted but satisfied. They had started the evening responding to what seemed like a routine medical call and ended up delivering babies and coordinating a complex rescue operation. Rex settled into his spot in the passenger seat, but Marcus noticed the dog kept looking back toward the mountain, as if checking one more time to make sure everyone was safe. It would be several days before they learned just how significant this rescue had been, and how the story of what happened that night would change their entire community. 3 weeks after the rescue, Marcus thought the story was over. The Henderson twins, Emma and James, were thriving in the NICU and would soon be going home. Sarah had recovered completely from her ordeal. The town had rallied around the family, bringing meals and helping Jake with expenses while he took time off work to be with his wife and children. Local newspaper had run a small story about the dramatic rescue, calling it "Police Officer Delivers Twins During Ice Storm." Marcus and Rex had received letters of commendation from the police chief and the mayor. It seemed like a nice, positive story about community cooperation and emergency response. Then Jake Henderson made a discovery that changed everything. While cleaning out the damaged areas of their house, Jake found a metal lockbox hidden behind some loose boards in the basement wall. The box had been damaged by water from the storm, but its contents were still readable. Dozens of old letters, photographs, and documents dating back to the 1940s. The documents told an incredible story. The Henderson house had once belonged to Dr. Samuel Morrison, a country doctor who had delivered babies throughout the mountain communities during World War II. Dr. Morrison had no hospital, no modern equipment, just his medical training and determination to help families in need. The letters in the box were from families thanking Dr. Morrison for saving their children under impossible circumstances. One letter, dated December 1943, was from a woman named Catherine Rodriguez, Marcus's own grandmother. Dr. Morrison had delivered Marcus's father during a blizzard, saving both mother and child when no other help was available. Jake brought the box to Marcus personally. "I thought you should see this," he said, spreading the old documents across Marcus's kitchen table. "Your family has a connection to our house going back 80 years. Marcus stared at the letter from his grandmother, written in her careful handwriting. She had thanked Dr. Morrison for saving her son's life during what she called the worst storm anyone could remember. The parallels to the night Marcus delivered the Henderson twins were impossible to ignore. But there was more. Among Dr. Morrison's papers was a detailed journal of his emergency deliveries. Marcus read entry after entry describing the doctor's techniques for handling premature births, breech deliveries, and maternal complications, techniques that Marcus had somehow used instinctively during Sarah's labor. Rex had been sitting quietly beside Marcus as he read, but suddenly the dog stood up and walked to the kitchen window. Outside, Jake's truck was pulling up with Sarah and the twins, now healthy enough for short outings. "We wanted you to meet them properly," Sarah said as she brought baby Emma to the door. Jake carried James, and both infants looked alert and healthy. "Dr. Chen says they're developing perfectly. No lasting effects from their dramatic entrance into the world." Marcus held Emma carefully, marveling at how much she had grown in just 3 weeks. Rex approached slowly, sniffing gently at the baby's blanket. Emma looked directly at the dog, her eyes focusing in a way that surprised everyone. "She remembers him," Sarah said softly. "Both babies do. They always calm down when they hear a dog bark. Dr. Chen says newborns can remember voices and smells from their first hours of life." As the families talked, more discoveries about the connection between past and present emerged. Tom Williams revealed that his grandfather had been Dr. Morrison's assistant during the war years. Dr. Chen found records showing that Dr. Morrison had been her predecessor in the town's pediatric practice, and that some of his medical techniques were still considered advanced by modern standards. The story began to spread beyond Millbrook. Regional newspapers picked it up, then national media outlets. The rescue had become a symbol of community cooperation and the connection between generations of people dedicated to helping others. Marcus received calls from police departments across the country asking about canine training techniques and emergency medical procedures. Rex became something of a celebrity himself, with veterinary schools requesting information about his unusual behavior during the rescue. But the most significant change was in Millbrook itself. The town council voted to establish a volunteer emergency response team, properly trained and equipped to handle mountain rescues. Tom Williams was appointed coordinator, and Dr. Chen developed protocols for handling medical emergencies in remote areas. A memorial was erected in the town square honoring Dr. Samuel Morrison and all the emergency responders who had served the mountain communities over the decades. Marcus and Rex were asked to speak at the dedication ceremony. "Dr. Morrison saved my father's life 80 years ago," Marcus told the crowd. "Last month, Rex and I had the privilege of delivering 2 more babies in that same house, using techniques that Dr. Morrison had pioneered decades before I was born. Some people might call that coincidence. I call it the continuing spirit of service that makes our community special." Rex sat quietly beside Marcus during the speech, wearing his dress uniform and looking every inch the hero he had become. After the ceremony, dozens of people approached to pet the famous canine and hear the story firsthand. 6 months later, the Bipoor Henderson twins were healthy, active babies who always smiled when they saw Marcus and Rex during visits. Jake had found work closer to home so the family could stay in the mountain house, which they had decided to keep as a tribute to its remarkable history. The lockbox discovery had revealed that more than 20 babies had been delivered in that house over the years during storms, emergencies, and other crises. Emma and James Henderson were just the latest in a long line of children, whose lives had been saved by the courage and dedication of people who refused to give up when lives were at stake. Marcus and Rex continued their regular patrols, but their relationship had deepened through their shared experience. The dog seemed more attentive to his partner's instincts, and Marcus had learned to trust Rex's extraordinary ability to sense danger and opportunity in ways that defied explanation. Dr. Chen established a scholarship fund in Dr. Morrison's name for students pursuing careers in emergency medicine. The first recipient was a young woman from the mountains whose own grandmother had been delivered by Dr. Morrison During a 1950s tornado, Sarah Henderson started a support group for mothers of premature babies, meeting monthly at the community center. She often told new members about the night her twins were born, emphasizing how the kindness of strangers and the dedication of first responders had made all the difference. The story had indeed shaken the town, but in the best possible way. Millbrook discovered that their community was part of a continuing tradition of people helping people, stretching back generations and forward into an uncertain but hopeful future. On the first anniversary of the rescue, Marcus and Rex returned to the Henderson house for a small celebration. Emma and James, now walking and babbling, ran to greet their Uncle Marcus and Uncle Rex with the enthusiasm only toddlers can show. As Marcus watched the healthy, happy children playing in the same room where they had fought for their first breaths, he realized that some stories never really end. They just become part of the larger story of a community, a family, and the unbreakable bonds that connect us all across time. Rex lay down on the floor where the children could climb on him, patient and gentle with his young friends. The dog's tail wagged slowly as Emma patted his head and James tried to share his cookie. Marcus smiled, knowing that wherever their next call took them, he and Rex would be ready. After all, they were part of something bigger than themselves, a tradition of service that had started long before they were born and would continue long after they were gone. The town of Millbrook had been shaken by their story, but it had also been strengthened. And in a world that often seemed divided and uncertain, that was perhaps the most important miracle of all.